Thank you for joining us for this special edition of Fox 4 News at 9 o'clock. Election Day is Saturday, May 4th, and tonight we have our first of 3 candidate forums this week for key races in Jefferson County. Right now we have candidates for Mayor of Port Arthur right here in the studio to tell you who they are and where they stand on key issues. So let's begin with candidate introductions.
Fox 4 News presents Meet the Candidates. An opportunity for local voters to hear directly from the candidates.
Each person will get 1 minute to introduce themselves and tell you why you should vote for them. We drew numbers to see which candidate would go first, so we'll begin with Mr. Thurman Barty.
Yes, good evening, and thanks to Fox 4 News for the invitation to appear on this mayoral debate. I am Thurman Bill Barty, candidate for the office of mayor in the city of Port Arthur, Texas. My campaign is based on uniting the forces, moving forward. Let's have a fresh start for the city of Port Arthur. Now, we'll do this by uniting the governmental entities with taxing privileges in our city of Port Arthur. However, you, the citizen, is the entity of most importance to me. Let's bring all of the forces to the table together and find out the concerns and deal with those concerns by incorporating those concerns and their comments and concerns with the citizens of Port Arthur. I ask for your vote for a fresh start for Port Arthur, Texas. Vote Thurman Bill Barty, Mayor, City of Port Arthur. I'm the 3rd position on the ballot. Thank you.
All right, and thank you, Mr. Barty. And next we have Mr. Willie Bay Lewis.
Yes, I'm Willie Bay Lewis. I have 25 years of experience in city government. The Port Arthur citizens is going to have an opportunity to elect someone with knowledge and skill and experience into the mayor's office. 3 ways you can do that. You can do that by mail ballot. The ballots already come to the house. You fill out an application, and the mail ballot will be sent to your house. The city secretary has informed me that she has already mailed the ballots out. They can start voting, okay? The second way you can help get me elected, you can vote early, April the 22nd through May the 30th. That's the early voting. I'll be working with you, and I'll be reminding you all, okay? Now, the final last chance is May the 4th. You're going to have to get out May the 4th. If you miss the mail ballot, if you miss the early voting, you got May 4th. You got one last opportunity to elect Willie Bay Lewis the mayor of Port Arthur.
All right, thank you, Mr. Lewis. And next we have Dr. Laura Harrison.
Hi, I'm Dr. Laura Harrison, and I am running for mayor of Port Arthur on the basis of first drainage and fixing it, and then rebuilding the city, even from what we are having, to add more technology to what we have, to increase it so that others will be well suited or comfortable in the city that they're in. An opportunity that you see me on the ballot when you go to the polls. Vote and know that I have your back and concerns for the things that you have concern for since the time of Harvey and probably before that. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Dr. Harrison. And then next we have Mr. Vincent. I'm sorry, did we go out of order? Mr. Freeman, Mayor Freeman.
Yes, ma'am.
Let's not skip you. Go ahead.
No worries, thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Mayor Derek Freeman of the great city of Port Arthur, and it's an honor to be here this evening. You know, right now, what we're running on, our slogan is work speaks for itself. The city of Port Arthur, we're turning the corner. We have a lot of great things, exciting things that are happening in our city. Right now, we have $17 million that we're spending on streets to fix streets, rehab streets, reconstruct streets. The most we spent in the last 10 years combined. We have the refinery contracts right now that include jobs for Port Arthur citizens. We also have refinery contracts that include dollars, actual dollars for Port Arthur business. There's a lot of exciting things happening. This past week, we heard about downtown and some of the things that's happening there. Believe me, Port Arthur is turning this big ship that we call the great city, and we're making it happen. Thank you, and I look forward to you voting Freeman for another 3 years.
All right, Mayor Freeman, thank you. And then we have Mr. Charles T. Vincent.
Yes, my name is Chuck Vincent. I'm a lifelong resident of Port Arthur and a citizen of Port Acres. My campaign is based on COD, communication, observation, and dedication. And I base the communication part on what I hear going on within our city, the things that I've noticed going on with City Hall, the different changes that have come around. The observation part, I have picked that up from the people that out there that I've spoken with throughout the community. There's been a lot of changes in the city of Port Arthur since Hurricane Harvey, some good, some bad. There's the dedication part. I am dedicated to making the changes that we need to move this city forward. The changes that are coming is going to affect a lot of stuff in the city of Port Arthur. There's going to be a lot of sales tax revenue generated. There's going to be a lot of changes that's coming with these refinery expansion projects. A lot of it the citizens aren't really aware of. So I'm looking forward to working with everyone in the city government to make the changes that Port Arthur really needs. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Vincent. And with that, we will begin our forum with the first question. In 2016, when Tropical Storm Harvey hit, the city's 911 system failed, causing panic among residents, some even calling Fox 4 and KFDM on air because they couldn't get through to 911 operators. So how do you plan to prepare the city for hurricane season so that this does not happen again? And Mr. Lewis, you have first answer.
Yes. What you got to understand, one of the things that responsibilities of the mayor's office, from January to June, hurricane preparedness. Everybody, you do drills, you do exercises. Everybody's supposed to know what they're going to be doing, who's going to be doing what a command post is going to be. That was not done for Harvey. The disaster plan, the directors and everybody got, the managers, they got their disaster plan 1 week after Harvey. There was no rehearsal, no exercise. That's why we were so devastated. And pumps ran out of fuel. I'll fix that. That will never happen on my watch. Pumps running out of fuel. They should have been moved to the sites. That didn't happen. Oh, sorry.
And that is the 30 seconds, Mr.
Okay.
Lewis. Dr. Harrison?
If we look at what has happened before on the storm, we have to assess the issue of why the failure occurred. Then we can go from that point and heal the issue that occurred then, so we don't have that again. We need to increase the 911 that in a way that will be beneficial to the storm from the evaluation of what we looked at on this last storm.
All right, Mayor Freeman?
Well, according to the storm and the statistics, we had about 28,000 calls and we only had 7 workers. So I'm gonna take this opportunity to let people know that we're looking for folks. It's not easy to be someone that takes those 911 calls, and you have to have a certain type of gumption. So we're looking for people, good people in the city of Port Arthur, so we get over some of those hurdles and the travesty that we dealt with the 911 calls. But again, we were all out being very clear on where we were, working on all our social media and every other platform that we could to make sure that people were aware during the storm and you could contact somebody to get valid information.
All right, Mr. Vincent?
Yes, I was aware of the 911 system down because I'm an amateur radio operator. When the 911 system went down, our radio communication systems started going off. The radio community got real busy, got active, and we're going to, my plan is to work with the EOC. We have a new system coming online that's going to be with the fire department and move the emergency communications center into the old Port Arthur News Building. And it's going to be bigger and better than what it is so that we don't lose 911 or radio communications again during any disaster.
All right, thank you, Mr. Vincent. And now on to our next question. It deals with an issue that every city across the country faces. While the city has a new police chief, Tim Durso, who is making strides in solving crimes, what are your plans, if elected mayor, to tackle violence in the city? And so for that question, we'll begin with Dr. Harrison.
Chief Durso is doing a good job actually coming in and doing it. All we need to do is get behind him and increase and make sure that he does that he has the support that he needs to tackle the issues that he's dealing with, because we're not police officers, but we got to leave that to the police department to do. But where they say they need assistance, that's where we need to step in and assist.
Okay, and now on to Mayor Freeman.
Yes, ma'am. Well, hopefully we'll make this informative. Right now, we just brought back Crime Stoppers. So anyone within the sound of my voice, we have 835 TIPS. That is the major way, the leading way that people solve crimes is by tips. So make sure that everyone is aware that Crime Stoppers is back. But then also, we have 40% Hispanics in our city. So I thought it was important for us to have a Hispanic forum in my first term of office to connect our Hispanic community with our first responders. Happy we did so, because I'd be scared to imagine what would happen if we had people that were afraid to call first responders, especially during a time like Harvey.
Okay, Mr. Vincent.
Yes, the stuff that's going on with the crime in the city of Port Arthur is pretty rampant all over the city. We've had numerous murders. We've had some gang activity. It's important that the citizens of the city of Port Arthur get to know the local officers, get to know them on a one-on-one basis. Chief Duraso is doing a wonderful thing. He's working really good with the Chiefs Advisory Committee, which myself and Thurman are a member of. There's some great things going on with Crime Stoppers, as Derek said. Get that app and use it, because it is helping solve those crimes.
And we'll come back to Mr. Barty, since you didn't get to that first question. Answer that one, and then also this next one. You'll have a full minute.
Okay, the first question dealt with, I forgot.
So going back to our first question was dealing with Tropical Storm Harvey when it hit. Since the 911 system failed, what would you do to ensure that that doesn't happen again?
Okay, with the 911 calls, I'm not sure what happened. I'm not really aware of totally what actually transpired, but going forward, I think that regionally there should be some type of training for everyone, and when these type of situations actually occur, that these calls, I know the technology should be able to have this now, where they won't come to our department or place where we are doing it because maybe our folk are evacuating, like happened, and they would go to some regional place or regional call center where they can be answered. And I know that those citizens who did that, they were just devastated, and I can't blame them. I even received calls myself personally of getting the assistance system folk on that. Now, with the second question, and thank you for allowing me to do that.
Absolutely.
With the second question, with our police department, I believe a police department, my personal belief is that a police department should actually mirror whatever society or community they are serving. Now, we don't actually have that in the city of Port Arthur, but I would hope that with Chief Duraso there and with others, with Civil Service, that we would work toward this. Community policing would be, I think, the actual thing that's needed to be used for everyone in our fair city.
All right, and Mr. Lewis?
Yes, dealing with the question pertaining to the crime.
Tackling the violence, yes.
Tackling the violence. Well, one of the things I met with Chief Duraso about is the apartment violence, like in Lewis Manor. They made over 400 calls in 1 year. And the problem is the management and the owners of the problem. What I got Chief Duraso working on is what's called a nuisance ordinance. And I did all the legwork, all the research and everything, and they are putting together a nuisance ordinance for Lewis Manor. 400 calls in 1 year, and within 90 days, it had over 195 calls. So that is a nuisance. That's a poster child for a nuisance.
And now we will move on to our next question, which surrounds the heart of Port Arthur, looking to regain its heartbeat and come alive once again. Recently, Motiva announced its plan to buy 2 historic buildings in downtown Port Arthur. The buildings will be used as office space for employees for the company. While this will breathe some new life into the downtown area, more, of course, will need to be done. So what else will you do to rehabilitate that area? And so we want to begin this one with Mayor Freeman.
Thank you for the question. You know, there are some exciting things happening in the city of Port Arthur. And right now, everybody's excited probably with about 1/10 of what we can announce and that we're aware of. There's some awesome things happening. Not only do we have people buying downtown, but we have retail on its way, and we have rooftops on the way. We are turning the corner downtown Port Arthur right now as far as redevelopment, rehabbing, and revitalizing our city.
Okay, Mr. Vincent.
Yes, since they came out with that announcement, Motiva buying those buildings, I've been spending a lot of time downtown. It's going to be nice to have those businesses, but our infrastructure downtown city of Port Arthur is not going to support some of that's going on. I'm kind of curious to see if Motiva is going to help with some of the infrastructure, because I went down there and I saw some of the pipes, the distribution systems for the sewer, the electrical, the water, and there's going to have to be some big changes come downtown before anything can be changed down there. It'll take years to let that happen before we can even think about putting some of that stuff in there.
Okay, Mr. Barty.
Okay, I applaud Motiva and anyone else who would purchase property in our downtown area, and to actually do that with the intent of bringing over 500 workers into downtown Port Arthur each and every day. I would want to see some of those persons remaining in Port Arthur. I would like to see some infilling in the corridor there, where we could have homes and folk would work and shop and even have recreation right there downtown. So those are the things that I'll work on with that.
Okay, Mr. Lewis.
Well, they're coming to these areas for a reason. Years ago, I initiated tax abatement for the downtown area. And then this industry came and asked for it to be extended to industry. That's why I got all the expansion, all the explosion, all the expansions going on. Now, what's in the downtown? We got tax abatement. We also have historical tax credits for those old buildings. And we got new market tax credits. That's how you get things done. They'll come in there because of the opportunity that they can, instead of buying all those temporary buildings and what have you, and put them in the plan, they're going to do something and add to our tax value.
And that's the 30 seconds. I'm sorry. We have to move on. Dr. Harrison.
Okay, I'm aware of the assessment that was made to the downtown area to be sure that people can move in and come into the downtown area. And I read through that, so that's a good thing. With that happening, then people should be able, or businesses should be able to come in. We should talk to more developers. Councilors should be, and mayors should be more involved in finding people, developers to come in and to develop the downtown area.
Okay. And we're going to take a quick break, but next we talk about the search for a city manager in our candidate forum. You're watching.
Hi.
Meet the candidates. An opportunity for local voters to hear directly from the candidates.
Welcome back to tonight's candidate forum with those running for Port Arthur mayor. Our next question deals with the city's population. What should be done to keep current residents and attract even more to the city? And for that, our first answer will come from Mr. Vincent.
Ooh, that's a big one. What's it going to take to attract more people in the city? Well, first of all, we're going to have to get rid of some of the dilapidated buildings that are in that downtown west side, because I've been spending a lot of time this Saturday doing putting out campaign signs. I ran across a lot of vacant lots, a lot of condemned houses, a lot of lots and trash. We're going to clean the city up, because a lot of people don't want to come into the city because of the stuff that is just dirty around town. It's going to take some cleaning up, get rid of some things, brighten the place up.
All right, thank you, Mr. Vincent. Now, Mr. Barty.
Well, first of all, I believe to have citizens come back to the city of Port Arthur, we're going to have some job creations. And I believe once we are able to create jobs with all of our industrial neighbors, and if we are able to have our students, even who are in the school systems, to be prepared to be able to go to work if they aren't going to college in our system, that's, I think, what we would need to sustain a nice level.
And that's time for your answer. I'm sorry. So, Mr. Lewis, you had to take a quick break. You missed the question, so I'll repeat it. What should be done to keep current residents and attract even more to the city?
Well, one of the things we have to correct our drainage. The flood insurance is impacted. You got people paying outrageous prices for flood insurance. We have to fix that, put in retention ponds and what have you. And like Mr. Barty said, we got to create jobs. We got plenty of jobs going to be coming to the city. We got, when we do our negotiating with our, in lieu of tax contracts, we need to lock in the job for Port Arthur citizens.
And now, Dr. Harrison.
Yes, ma'am. We have to make it attractive as well with job training. We have students coming out of school. We need to train them. We need to fix our drainage, and because it starts raining and people automatically experience PTSD issues with that. So we need to fix our drainage. We need to just make our city more attractive and talk to developers, get this thing developed. Get Pleasure Island, Pleasure Island again.
All right, thank you. Mayor Freeman.
Well, for the city of Port Arthur, we have to get over the stigma that Port Arthur is a bad place to be. You know, we have to start speaking life into our city. And for the past 3 years, we've been speaking life. You see some of the evidence that's happening downtown. You see the beautification teams that have been going around the city cleaning up so we can attract folks. And the one thing we have to do also is work closely with our school district. You know, for us to attract young folks, we got to have a solid school district, a place where they want to come, raise their family, and raise their kids. So we're going to do that in our next term so we can attract and retain the people that we have.
All right, thank you. And now let's talk about the search for a city manager. After identifying 4 finalists and voting, the Port Arthur City Council is reopening its search for a new city manager. So what do you think about this move? And for that question, we're going to go back to the beginning and begin with Mr. Barty.
Well, I believe that the council made a decision for whatever reason that they would reopen it again once they had already selected 4 finalists. I'm not sure, I'm not privy to information that would cause me to either say that that was the correct thing to do or that was the incorrect thing to do. You know, the folk who were there made that decision, I assume, according to information that they had. However, I know that the city not having a permanent city manager is causing us some heartache, I believe, in some shape, form, or fashion. So I think we need to get about the business.
And that is the time for your answer, Mr. Barty. Thank you. Mr. Lewis.
City Council made a bad decision. We have to have a city manager in place. They put in a set of rules. They're going to rank the city managers. The one who has the highest ranking is the city manager. Dr. Tomei is the city manager. Now, since it didn't come out like they wanted to, they want to go out again. You can't do that. We have the utility department. We don't have a director. We have the public works. Do not have a director. We do not have a city manager. You can't operate like that. That's unstable. The council looks unstable.
All right, thank you, Mr. Lewis. And Dr. Harrison?
Okay, we do remember that we are public servants. We serve the people. And because there's no city manager there, we need to look at why we don't have one. If they met the guidelines, and that's what I'm understanding, if they meet the qualifications, they pass the interview, I don't see why we don't have one or why we're going back out to seek for another one. So we should have already picked that, and it's suffering the city for that reason that we got digression, that causes digression. So we need to do better.
Okay, Mayor Freeman.
Well, Mr. Harvey Robinson, the interim that we had, was doing a great job. This past Tuesday, we put in Ms. Rebecca Underhill, who's doing a great job for the city of Port Arthur also. In previous searches, we went outside and we hired somebody, $20,000, $25,000, $30,000 for a search firm to look for folks. So what we did this time is try to save the city taxpayers dollars, where we could fix streets and do some of the drainage. So with that, we did an internal search and had our HR department do it, but it, again, didn't work out to our liking. So we've asked the HR department to expand the search and see if we could bring in the net with more people.
Okay, and Mr. Vincent?
City manager. For 2 years, we've been battling over city manager to get somebody in the position of city manager. I feel we did have somebody good in there, and through some things that changed, we looked like we were going to have Mr. Tomei in there, who I thought was a good choice. He personally was out there doing things, changing things. I spoke with a lot of city employees that were happy that he was in there making some of the changes that he had. Now we've got to start the process all over again. So instead of moving forward, we actually move backwards.
All right, thank you, Mr. Vincent. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back tackling the topic of education. You're watching the Candidate Forum for Port Arthur Mayor on Fox 4 News at 9.
Meet the candidates. An opportunity for local voters to hear directly from the candidates.
Welcome back to our Candidate Forum. Let's pick back up with a topic that's important to parents: education. Port Arthur Independent School District is the highest paying school district in Southeast Texas. Dr. Portery has made great strides as superintendent, and the district is now offering incentives to hire more teachers. So what can be done to turn around low performing schools? That is our education question. And for that, we will begin with Mr. Lewis.
Yeah, one of the things, Port Arthur, the ills with the city of Port Arthur, they wants to blame the Port Arthur Independent School District. The city of Port Arthur has 5 school districts. Were you aware of that? They have 5 school districts. Port Neches Grove, Nederland, Beaumont, Sabine Pass, and Port Arthur Independent School District. So you just can't believe. Now, there are things that's being done to elevate the education and to do certain things to improve the education system. That's being put in place, okay? But
Okay. Mr.
Port
Lewis,
Arthur
and that is
has
your
5
time
school
for
districts.
that question. Dr. Harrison?
As a person that works in the district, I can tell you the improvement would be to stop the STARS testing. The administration of it is too hard on the children, is too hard on the teachers and administration, and that would make an opening for teachers to come in, because we can't focus on the learning more. We could focus more on teaching instead of on requirements. Yes, ma'am. STARS testing need to go.
All right, Mayor Freeman?
A lot of it has to do with us engaging the kids, making education fun. One thing that we did in the first 3 years of my term is we created Camp Stimulate, where kids got into the campus on Lamar State College, Port Arthur, and they got to build robots for a week. They stayed in the dorms, got to realize what college was like, ate in the cafeteria just like other college students, and they got engaged. So we have to engage our kids, make it interesting, and at the same time we have to diversify our economy. Not oil and gas, we do it a lot here in Port Arthur, but we have other things that we can do also. We have to engage our kids and make them aware of it.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Vincent?
Yes, I agree with Ms. Harrison on the stop the STAR testing, and I also agree with Derek. We have got to do something. I am a product of Stillwell Technical Center, where I went to a vocational school. I'm a product of that school. We need to continue vocational education throughout the entire city. Get these kids. Not everybody can go to college. Not everybody can afford those type of deals, but you can get in there and work. We still have a lot of electronics in this area. We need to get in there and get the kids into vocational programs, welding, electronics, air conditioning, refrigeration, all the things that this city is going to need to go on.
All right, thank you, Mr. Vincent. And Mr. Barty?
Well, I know returning to basics, the family is a structure that is absent in a lot of our students' lives, whether folk really want to know it or not. Some kids have to go home and be adults. This causes a problem with the kid and his or her ability to learn. So those are the things that we need to do as a community to recreate the atmosphere of family. And as we have said, our educational system is doing quite well with all of the restraints that we do have.
All right, thank you, Mr. Barty. And still ahead, more questions for our guests tonight. One more, actually. You're watching the Candidate Forum for Port Arthur Mayor on Fox 4 News at 9.
Meet the candidates. An opportunity for local voters to hear directly from the candidates.
And our last question for tonight is the possible relocation of Mardi Gras Southeast Texas. On Thursday, the Port Neches City Council will vote on moving the annual Mardi Gras from Port Arthur to Port Neches Riverfront Park. The chairman of Mardi Gras Southeast Texas, Tim Romero, says it's a purely financial decision, citing declining revenue. He also says it will offer a more centralized location and draw a larger crowd. So what will this mean for the city if the annual moneymaker leaves? And for that question, we will begin with Dr. Harrison.
The Mardi Gras has been in Southeast Texas for a while now. It had to get itself kicked off. But as far as it's being, I don't see a plus to it greatly. It's the first Mardi Gras I know where people had to pay to get in, for one. So you have to get it, the vending money or the money that's made for it. I'm not sure that it's worth the time for us to put into it anymore.
Okay, Mayor Freeman.
Well, we love our friends at Mardi Gras, but you know, again, they have their own program and they can explore other opportunities. But the question being, what will happen as far as the finances and the money that we make off of Mardi Gras? Actually, if Mardi Gras were to stay in Port Neches or go to Port Neches, the city of Port Arthur, we have the hotels. The city of Port Arthur, I think they may have a couple of restaurants there, but the city of Port Arthur, we have the restaurants. So a lot of the money and the tax dollars that we generated from Mardi Gras will still be generating it. But again, we love to have that Port Arthur Mardi Gras attached to it, and we want them to come back down. Hopefully, we can find a balance.
All right, and that's your time for that question. Mr. Vincent?
I'd like to see Mardi Gras stay downtown Port Arthur. But for that to happen, there's going to be some changes have to be made. We've got to figure out ways to get more people in there to get the crowd up. We've got to figure out ways for city council to work with things to where the stuff that's going on outside the gate becomes inside the gate. We've got to do something to draw more vendors. And if we're going to get some big name attractions to come in with Mardi Gras, we have got to get rid of some of those old, ugly buildings in downtown Port Arthur. Main attraction, Don't want to come down there when there's a building right next door that's full of hazardous material.
All right,
It's gonna
that's your
take
time,
some
Mr.
changes.
Vincent. All right, Mr. Barty.
Okay, wanting to be a servant of the people, I would really want to know what the citizens think about this. I'm not aware of the total feeling of the citizenry in Port Arthur per se as to Mardi Gras staying or leaving. However, if the Mardi Gras committee thinks that they should leave, then maybe that's what they are going to do. But for one thing for sure, we've supported them for 27 years, I believe, and I believe that it's not a good idea for them to take Mardi Gras from the city of Port Arthur.
All right, and that's your time, Mr. Barty. Mr. Lewis?
Yeah, Mardi Gras is a private organization. If they don't make a profit, well, they cannot pay the bills. So if they move to Port Neches, I hope they stay in the area. If they go to Port Neches, stay in the area, Port Arthur still is going to benefit because we got the hotels, we got our hotel tax, okay, and we got all the restaurants and what have you. We got all the amenities that they need. So it's not going to really hurt. Now it's going to hurt the outside vendors, the ones that's outside the gate. It's going to hurt them. Okay?
All right. And that's time, Mr. Lewis, for that question. And that wraps up our candidate forum for tonight. We thank all of our candidates for coming and being a part of this. Next on Fox 4 News at 9, we'll have your news of the day along with your weather forecast and sports. Stay with us.